Good morning, team. Welcome to day 150, the 5 a.m. squat club. This morning being Sandbag Saturday, we're going to pick up something heavy, carry it around, and think about a topic. Today, we're on how regenerative agriculture and CrossFit, or functional movement with eating right, are basically the same thing. So join us. Let's do it together. First thing before we move, we're going to choose our first thoughts of the day. We're going to prime our mind so that we're not just chasing default thoughts all day. We can be intentional about where we go by choosing our first thought. So we come into our squat position here, our passive squat, feet underneath the hips. And if you feel like you're going to fall over backwards, grab yourself a counterbalance and hold it out in front. And I want to direct my thoughts as opposed to chasing them. So the first thing I want to tell myself is I am responsible. This is like Jocko Willink's extreme ownership. It's up to me, right? There's no point in blaming other people or having excuses or, saying that it's not your fault, because what's the point, right? In the end, it's up to me. I am responsible. I'm going to take accountability for my life. Next is I will make time between stimulus and response, so that I'm not just freaking out all the time, right? Whatever comes at you or me that is challenging, can I take a second before giving my response so that it's what I want, what I'm proud of, and a good response? Next is I have all I need to succeed today and will focus on progress over perfection. I can take one step every day. I don't need to focus on the ultimate fitness goal or the ultimate life goal. I can focus on the steps that are going to get me there and make progress, as opposed to being overwhelmed by the thought of the whole thing. And then last is I choose gratitude, so that through all this process, I'm able to enjoy it. I want to see the positive things and not just focus on the faults or the negatives, so that I can build that ability to see more positive and become more positive and be grateful for the things that I have, as opposed to just thinking about the negative. So I'm responsible. I will make time between stimulus and response. I have all I need to succeed today and will focus on progress over perfection. And I choose gratitude. I like it. When we do that with the girls in the morning, we add, today I choose to be happy. Not a bad one. All right, next, let's get moving a little bit here. So what we're going to do first thing is just get some burpees in. Let me just check out. Good morning, Kenneth. Good morning, Jody. Welcome back, Jason. Let me just see here. I didn't actually put this on here. So step one, we're going to get in our burpees. 20 burpees to start the day. Just trying to wake up. So what you're looking at is get yourself all the way down onto the floor. You can walk down, you can hop down, you can fall down. And then we just want to get ourselves back up and celebrate the fact that we can do so. So we're going to get 20 in here. Just nice and easy. This is the way that we start every morning, getting the blood flowing so that we can be more effective, efficient when we do our workout, especially as we age. You may be thinking when you're young that I don't need to do this warm up. I can just go straight into it. That will fade. As you age, you're gonna recognize the benefit or the need to get moving, to get the blood flowing, warmed up beforehand. So we'll get our 20 burpees. Call this our wake-up call. Call this just our step one. Obviously, you guys have already gotten up with no snooze, which is a win already. And hopefully, we're all drinking water. I'm curious about that. Do you guys start with coffee this early? What does that look like? Or tea or anything? Or do you guys have any special, like apple cider vinegar drinks you do? Ginger. It's just water here. No counting. Let's say we're maybe 10. Start to get that dry mouth, you know it's working. We've got a good chat today. I know some of you were around yesterday and I was talking about this. I've even got an outline. We're going to talk about, call it regenerative health, regenerative agriculture, and how the two are the same and necessary for us to move forward in a positive way. To be honest, potentially to move forward at all long term. Gotta be getting close to 20 here. Maybe a couple more. And then we'll move on. How are we feeling from yesterday? I'm feeling the push-ups a little bit in the chest. But not bad. Whew. Okay, we'll do our general warm-up here too. Just because those are regular everyday movements, we might as well get some reps in. So, see down here. It's hard to do. A general warm-up, we're gonna go through 2 rounds of it. We're looking at some knee raises to warm up the hip flexors. You could even alternate these if you wanted. Then we're gonna go with a good morning. Let's just hinge at the hip. Just an unlocked knee. Get some movement around the posterior chain, the hips, hamstrings, low back. Then we'll get some reverse lunges. Looking for a nice, more or less vertical shin on this front leg, keeping the heel planted on the floor. Press through both legs to get out of there. Followed by some more burpees, which we just did, and then some squats. So looking at feet underneath the shoulders, knees in line with the feet as opposed to inside. I want to be evenly distributed in terms of weight on the feet as opposed to toes or too much heels. What else? And then hips below the knees in terms of range of motion. So let's go 2 rounds here so that we can get to our sandbag. If you are new here, what we do every Saturday is we've got a topic that we're going to discuss that is potentially controversial, but likely just, health related, human related. I call it human blueprint. How we're supposed to live, in my opinion. And we carry something, so we're going to pick up that sandbag and we're just going to carry it the whole time. There's a lot of value functionally in doing that. I tell the story. Good morning, Yaroslav says, good morning, everybody. Happy Sandbag Day. It is a happy day. It's funny, I've got a little bit of love and hate with Sandbag Saturday now. There's the love side is that I like to, kind of get to blab about something that's important to me, which is the love half. But then the hate half is just one of those, what's coming. You know how that workout is gonna feel. And there's a little bit of anxiety, right? I know that's a challenging session to carry that thing around and it's uncomfortable. But obviously we're still gonna do it. So a little love-hate there. It's just like any workout at the gym that you've done before that is unpleasant. So it's neat. I'm starting to see certain days, maybe I am more nervous about than others, which is more than fine. I think there's nothing wrong with being nervous or scared of your workout a little bit. I think, to be honest, if you're not, it's probably not challenging enough. I don't know, is this round 2 or did I do a second round already? I don't even know. Let me know, is this round 3? Did I screw up? Do we need to just move on here? I'll do a few more because no response. Jody, where's Megan today? Where's she at? Yeah, let's just get 5 more of these, 6 more of those. 3, I'll count. 4, not to get lost track too much. 6 more lunges. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 3 burpees and then 6 squats. Call it there. 1, 2, pulsing iron. Good morning, Max. Says, let's go, Adam. Let's go, team. We're all here doing it together, and then we'll finish with just 5 squats. And then we'll go pick up that sandbag. Max, you should hang around. We're talking about regenerative agriculture and its connection to regenerative health and how the two are necessary for our species, let's call it. Max, wish you a great workout. Can't stay today, but coming by to support. Thanks a lot, dude. All right. So, as we do every Saturday, we're gonna pick up something heavy and carry it around. I'm gonna grab some demos here. So, depending on what you have at your disposal, you wanna choose something uncomfortable. Whew. I know we've spoken about like a heavy punching bag if you've got something like that. I mean, you could do a med ball, you could do a dumbbell, you could do a bumper plate, right? If you had a bumper plate, you can kind of carry that around. I'm going to show kind of some positions that I would use for this, right? You can definitely put this on the shoulder, hang out there. Obviously, this would be too light for me, but if it's all you got, use it. You could go, with a backpack full of books or weights. You could even just put a backpack on and kind of do it as a ruck. I'm going to use this sandbag here. There's another fantastic option right there. If you've got some kids, throw them on your back. You can see me there in the back with the sandbag. It's a great option. Thank you for the photo. So find yourself something unpleasant. This is maybe still wet from last week. That's not good. Oh well. And if you need, we can talk about how to pick this up, because I'm probably going to get at least one warm-up rep picking it up, and then at least 10 seconds carrying it around. Just get a little warm up with your weight. So let's do that. Let's take a minute. Find your weight, whatever you got or whatever you're going to use. Try it out. Let's get it on the shoulder. Get it on the back. I didn't talk about how I was going to do this. You can do it on the shoulder. You can do it in front. At some point, I'll probably do something that looks like this, where basically I'm supporting it on the leg. Basically, just keep it off the floor. You can put it in any position you want. You can put it on your back if you could. I just don't want to put it down, right? I want to bear that load for this whole time. So, let's do that. If you're already set up, if you could hit a like, we should have 3 or 4 there. Not bad, 3. And let's do that. I'll find a way I can carry this with no hands. If I just stand here like this. My only issue here is, obviously I don't want to put it down, but if I had to, like, drop it, I can't really do that. Maple, are we gonna be too much today? I might have to put you away before we even start. All right, we're gonna see. All right, Jody says, ugh, slowly getting psyched. Yeah, I think this will be good once we start. But this thing, I don't know. She's getting worse, right? Those of you that are watching, like, she's getting more licky, right? Okay, Maple, you're gonna go in the crate. Sorry, let's go. Great. Cool. Okay, I think we're pretty good to go here. I picked it up once. That's like a typical Adam warm-up. We get a thumbs up here, team. How we doing? It's time. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Jody says, "Oh, Maple needs a friend." Yeah, I mean, my daughters are her friend, but at the same time, we'll probably get another dog. I don't know if it's going to be this coming spring or the year after, but we will have another one at some point. This will be a menagerie here. I know that's not the right word, is it? No, probably not, but either way. Okay. Maple's acting completely normal. Yeah, she's a licker. Who would have known? All right, team. Let's do this. So once again, we're going to pick up our sandbag. We're going to hold it for however long it takes to get all the words out. If you guys have questions, because obviously I do better with questions. I do have an outline here, but if you've got questions about agriculture, fitness, anything, toss them in here. It may be harder to do once we're on it, but if you can put some questions in, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, I'm just gonna blab on my own way here. All right, let's do this. Okay, team, we're going. 10 seconds. Get that sandbag ready. 3, 2, 1. All right. So we'll start with a little background here, a little bit of my story and kind of how we got here. If you've been here before, you know I've mentioned I've been coaching fitness basically my whole life. Right? I started volunteering at a local YMCA when I was 16. I'll be 41 this year, actually in, I don't know, like 10 days. And that's always been important for different reasons, you know, for aesthetic reasons. But as I got older, it became more about health and, you know, optimizing that and living a better life. And then 2013, but started dating and eventually married a naturopathic doctor. So my wife is, if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's basically what doctors should be. Is they do, you know, a full hour assessment talking about your history, they get all your details, and then in essence they do, you know, preventative health. They change lifestyle factors as opposed to prescribing drugs, you know, and they try to get to the root cause and fix what's going on. So, you know, we have a similar mindset in terms of helping people, and you know, you could even say away from the conventional system, away from the drug model. You know, we both believe in health. And I thought I had a pretty good handle on that and what that looked like until I became a farmer. So we can say in 2020, you know, when my gym was shut down, I had a little bit more time to do some research. I started digging into our food system and how it was produced, you know, how it got here, where the food was produced, what impact it would have on us and on the planet. And as a result, in 2020, we bought some chickens, and then eventually in 2021, we moved out here because I had researched enough and decided that this is what we were going to do, and we were going to make our own food because it was too far from, you know, being able to get what I wanted wasn't realistic in an easy way. So we moved out here with the goal of raising our own food and providing a better source for my family, right? I had no goals of saving the planet or anything. It was just, screw the system. It's not providing what I want. I'm gonna do it myself. But fast forward, now that we're here, two things. One, we're surrounded by, call it chemical agriculture or factory farming or whatever you want to call it, monocrop, chemical agriculture, right? A field full of corn or soybeans. And then the second thing is our land itself. You know, before we came here, this land had been used the same way that the land across the road has or is. And maybe I'll dig into that a little bit. But what I noticed was a lot of bare soil. So spots where there were no plants growing. You know, if you look at your lawn, there are very few bare spots. There's grass everywhere. There's not a lot of spots that are just dirt. But here there are, especially when we got here. It's getting better. But there's a lot of bare ground. And bare ground is not good for growing plants. It's not good for soil health. The sun hits it. It's hot. It's dry. It's no good. So, since being here, it's led me to dig more and more into the understanding of soil health and planet health. So, we'll talk about that now. We'll talk about the problem on both sides, and then we'll talk about the solution. So our problem, and we'll talk about agriculture here because it's bigger than you think, right? I mean, what you eat is what you are, and how that food is produced is more important than you think for your health, but also for the health of our planet. And I know I sound like a global warming idiot, but I want you to know I don't care about, the term global warming or any of that stuff. I'm concerned about the degradation of our natural resources, right? I'm concerned about our ability to produce nutrient-dense food for our species. So what we do currently, if I look across the road over a year, what I'm gonna see is it starts with tillage. So they run discs, circular knives basically through the field to cut up the ground, cut up anything that's there, to break it up, as they call it. And then they'll plant a field full of one thing, which is not how nature would ever do it. All right, that's part of the problem there. When you plant one thing in a field, nature never does that. And what you end up with is pests. And the soil is not healthy, right? So the pests come because they see a buffet, right? If there's a pest that likes corn and they see 200 acres full of corn, those pests are gonna call their friends. You're gonna end up with a huge problem. And then as a result, what the chemical agriculture guys do is they spray the crap out of it with pesticides, right? Just, side means to kill. So pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, those things are all meant to kill things. And if you think about it, we're trying to grow things. We're trying to make things live, not to kill them. So this process of tillage, planting, and then spraying to keep the weeds and the pests and all that down is the typical system. Once that plant or crop is harvested, right, they come in with a big machine, cut it off, and then they'll either till the ground and leave it, what they call fallow, just open for the winter. They might plant something else, but generally it's fallow. And what happens there is when there's wind or rain, all of that soil that's broken up and has no roots in it washes away, right? It erodes down into our streams, rivers, eventually into our main waterways. So you can imagine that this chemical, conventional factory farming model is not super sustainable, right? We're losing our topsoil at a rate that you would not imagine. I don't have the numbers, but I hear it on podcasts all the time. It's tons per year per acre, right? Think about that. I have 100 acres here. If I lose a ton of topsoil per acre, that's 100 tons of topsoil. That's a year. Obviously, the practices that we're doing aren't allowing for that, but that's the convention. So whether you believe in, whether this chemical agriculture process is good or not, we won't have soil to grow things in anymore if we continue this method. We were talking about hydroponics a little bit yesterday. Jody had asked. That is not the way to sustain the planet. That is not the way that we are going to continue sustainably on this rock. So the other side of this, because I'm talking about humans as well, is we have the same problem. We've fallen for this convenience culture, this convenience lifestyle where we're just looking for the fast, easy, with very little regard for the long-term effects Very little regard for the big picture and what effect that might have on things external to us. Spencer says, got you on the big screen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Spencer. Jody says, wow, longtime partner. That's awesome. I don't know what that means. Oh, Chelsea. So humans, because we're so disconnected, because we don't care about that, you can see it. We're fat, we're sick, and we rely on others, like big pharma, big food, whatever, to make our health decisions for us. We outsource it. We'll just say, well, I'm going to trust this giant corporation that's making this processed food for me because they say it's good. Right? Outside of that, yes, we're fat and sick, but at the same time, maybe even worse is fertility rates are decreasing substantially. People don't even want to have kids, which is it's a whole different issue. But fertility rates decreasing, mental health issues are increasing. Right? People are screwed. People are not moving in a positive direction health-wise. We're getting more and more disconnected from the way that we should live. Right? The way that I see it is humans are meant to live by, call it a blueprint. And part of that, kind of the way that I see it, is how we would have lived as wild critters. As before the conveniences of housing and, centralized food systems and living in cities. Like I'm talking about back when we were tribal creatures, when our instincts, you hear a lot about we're trying to calm our lizard brains, which are living in this fight or flight world. So when I talk about human blueprint, I'm talking about when that fight or flight was real, when it was necessary, where there were actually threats to your existence, maybe on a regular basis, just from nature. When we were living like that, there was no, none of your mental energy went towards what video game you're going to play later. Or, what your friends thought of, this movie. I'm not thinking of good examples. Your energy and your focus was on survival and how you could procreate. Right back to the basics of any species. Our goals were instinctual, like reproduce, right? Keep this species going. So when I look at what a human should be, I look at it kind of from that perspective, and we're so far from it, right? So many people have lost meaning in their lives because there's so much distraction. You can live your whole life without having to do anything physical now. You can stay indoors and your life just be made out of plastic. And I'm not faulting the people who have chosen that way. I'm faulting the system. I'm faulting us for allowing ourselves to get to this place where we're jammed into hives in the city. And as a result, we think, or we're told, that we need to do this kind of extractive, destructive, degradative, I don't know if that's a word, but it's degrading agriculture to produce enough food. And it's just not true. Especially if we were able to spread out a little bit, get the hell out of the density of the cities, grow a little garden, get back connected. Basically what I'm saying is get outside, right? We have lost our ability to be human for the most part. And as a result, life is hard. It's supposed to be hard, but it's mentally hard. People are lost. And to me, part of that is loss of purpose, loss of connection with nature. But it's not the end of the world, right? It's not doom and gloom. There are maple, there are ways, right? And we're talking about them here. We're going to talk about regenerative agriculture, and I'm going to talk about CrossFit. CrossFit is a methodology for fitness, but also for health and life. So I'll talk about first what regenerative agriculture is and how that can solve this problem. Right? Regenerative, if we want to define it, is literally the opposite of extractive. Right? Instead of taking things away and making something less, you're adding and making it better, bringing it back to what it used to be, as opposed to the word sustainable, which is maintain, keep things the same. Regenerative is to regenerate, bring it back, make it better again. And in order to do that, the best way is to go back to, or to mimic nature as much as possible. I've got a slide here to talk about that. There's a group called, I think I can do this, called Understanding Ag, and they've done a great job of coming up with some principles for soil health. I don't know if we can click on these guys. I don't know if you can see that. But basically, the 6 principles of soil health, and when I say regenerative agriculture, it's about bringing back soil health, right? Because if our soil is dirt because it's been treated with chemicals and plowing and sunshine, meaning sunshine directly on it, right, to kill all the microorganisms, then we need to bring back soil health, to bring back food health, to bring back animal health, to bring back human health, right? If the soil is junk, the plants are junk, the animals are junk, we're junk. So on here you can see 6 principles of soil health. I don't know if I can see it this close. First is know your context. And we don't need to go into this too deeply, but every context is different, right? I'm not going to try to grow bananas here. I need to know what I'm working with and try to adapt, because we're trying to learn from nature to mimic it, to become, to get back to health, basically. Oh, I can't even see that. I'm not gonna try to read them, but the idea are, keep living roots in the ground all the time. Don't have tillage. There is diversity, right? We talked about a field full of corn is not natural, it's not healthy. Diversity is the more different plants and animals and microorganisms and fungi and whatever that live in any one area, the healthier that area is, and the healthier that forage those plants are for the animals. Because the more diversity there is above ground, the more diversity there is below ground, the more health there is down there. There's ground cover. Don't leave the ground exposed, because that soil gets heated up, it kills all the bugs, and nothing grows there. And then there's I probably skipped a few, but maybe, to me, one of the most important ones, the last one on the 6 there, is animal integration. We're not going to get to the ecosystem processes and the adaptive stewardship, but you can check that website. It's called Understanding Ag for more. But we're talking about animal integration there. Think about this, team. The soil in North America, right, all that beautiful topsoil we used to have was built by the rotation or the migration of large groups of ruminant animals, of grazers. Right, so for the most part in North America, it was the bison or buffalo, whatever you want to call them, antelope. They would move through in a massive group and just mash everything down, right? They would take out all the forage, all the plants that were there, have a strong animal impact. I think that's what's on their second slide there, the middle one. Right, they would graze everything down, it would be super beat up, and they would move on. And the necessary point here is they wouldn't be back for, say, a year, maybe 2 years, who knows? And what happens there is through the animal impact and the leaving of manure, urine, and then the most important thing is the rest period after that grazing event, allows the soil to rebuild healthier. It's like working out and taking rest. If you don't rest the soil after that impact, it doesn't heal. It doesn't come back. But if you do, you can literally create soil, and over generations, that's how our soil was built. So our goal with that is basically to mimic it, is to move the animals around and rest the ground so that we can heal it. We can rebuild soil and get back to a place where we can grow healthy food for humans. And then we'll bring it all together here, because I'm trying to make this connection between regenerative ag and what we're doing here. All right, we talked about humans are fat and sick and, addicted to convenience. The way to regenerate humans is this. I mean, I can use literally the doctrine of CrossFit and say, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Keep intake to levels that support exercise but not body fat. Step 1, simple. Right? We regenerate humans by eating healthy. Step 2 is constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity. Right? I do movements that are innate to my humanity that will increase my ability to live like a human, and therefore help people around me build the things that, are sustainable for us on this planet. And then the other piece that I think we're missing in terms of regenerating the humans is our connection to nature, is our get yourself outside, take your shoes off and put your feet in the dirt. And I'm not gonna call it some, catchy thing like go do some grounding. Just get the hell outside. Go get in the woods. Go put your hands in the dirt. I think there's a huge piece we're missing when we're stuck inside all the time and we don't think that getting outside is important. The more time I spend outside, especially with the goal of healing the ground and producing this food, the more intimately connected I become with nature. Someone was asking me the other day, or they were saying, oh, hey, summer's ending and it's sad, it's getting cold. And ever since I've been a farmer, I love the season so much more and the change, because my life is now seasonal, right? The animals do certain things in the summer and they have certain I have certain practices for them in the winter. And each one of those seasons, even the transition seasons, the shoulder seasons, they all have different activities and different jobs that need to be done. So it's a reminder, an inescapable reminder of our connection with nature. And we've lost that so much. I know people who don't go outside who are scared to put their hands in the dirt. Their kids touch the dirt and they're washing their hands right away. Man, we need hard physical movement, in natural, functional ways. We need food that comes from healthy soil. I mean, personally, comes from the things that eat the things that the healthy soil grows, mainly regeneratively raised animals. We need connection as well, right? We are tribal creatures, and I'm personally one that doesn't love everybody, but I definitely know that we need connection, right? We need to have our tribe. We need to find people that are like us to have our community, because that is part of being human. So when we disconnect ourselves, and we lock ourselves in a room and play video games, we're losing that. So, you have choices to be extractive or regenerative. And you can do that by, for your body, regenerating as a human. You can think about eating like a human, moving like a human, connecting to nature like a human, and connecting to your community. And then in terms of your agriculture, shake the hand that feeds you. Go meet a farmer. Find out what they're doing. Go see the animals. Go see how they're being raised. Don't just buy your food from the grocery store. And know that we can fix this, right? By being a demanding consumer and not buying processed shit that's raised in a way that is degrading our planet. And by moving your body and inspiring others to do so as well so that they're not stuck in that system. That's the way that we change the world. And I know that sounds big and daunting, but, or really it doesn't sound daunting, it sounds pretty simple to me, but it's necessary. I know it sounds, doom and gloom and yeah, right, it's not that bad. It is that bad, right? Look around, look how sick people are. Look how people aren't having kids. And look at the type of fucking food we're eating, man. So there's 25 minutes. I think we're gonna put her down. I don't know if I've covered what I wanted to cover, but I think that's pretty good. Maybe you guys have some questions. Let's do that. Oh. That was beautiful. How are you guys feeling, team? Let's take a minute here. Back gets lit up a little bit on that, eh? Jody, how does this all affect buying a typical bag of flour for baking? Oh, wow. Well, maybe we'll do that in moments of clarity. I have thoughts on that. But at the same time, Jody, aren't you carnivore? Don't you not eat? Look how sweaty I am. Look at that. Okay. Let's do that. Let's get into, let's see if we've got a stretch here. I'm going to do a chest stretch just because I'm a little sore from yesterday for those push-ups. And then we'll chat a little bit more here. How do I do this? Okay, so we're just gonna do the old arm open. So Jody, how does this all affect buying a typical bag of flour for baking? Well, so first, yeah, so yes, my follow-up was, aren't you carnivore? And then Jody said, yes, just wondering how the food chain affects that. I'm not sure I specifically get that, but let me go with a few things. So raising wheat flour. So I've got views on this in the first place. Like I don't think that humans should be eating grains on like a top level. And to a lot of people that sounds crazy, and even the like homesteaders and whatnot will be like, well, what about sourdough? And to be honest, like my thoughts now that I've seen these things grown, right? Like I never even thought about it this way before, but like the grains that you eat, if you're talking corn and wheat and oats and rye and barley, those are grasses, right? So each one of those, some of the farmers who grow soy here, they just planted their, what they call winter wheat. It'll germinate and it'll green up, until November. And then, the snow will make it dormant, and then it'll come back in the spring. And then they'll harvest that in July or so, June or July. But it's grass, right? If you come out and see that in 2 weeks once it's germinated, it just looks like a field of grass. So does corn, so do oats, so do all those things. Because what you're eating is grass seed. Right? I don't know, maybe you guys know this, but that's what wheat is. Like when the little wheat, I don't even know what it's called. I mean, it's seed. I don't know of a better word for it, but the thing that at the top of the wheat plant is the wheat seed that they harvest off and then they grind down. That's the way that happens for all of those plants, right? So maybe we need to explain plant cycles here, right? So a plant goes through a few cycles in its life, right? There's germination where it's coming out of the ground, it's a tiny little seedling. and then it goes through a vegetative state where it's putting on size and lots of green. And then it goes into maturity or sexual maturity where it starts to think about reproduction, or reproductive stage where it starts to produce reproductive parts, in this case, seed. And that's when we go and harvest it. So first, like, you're eating grass seed. That's what that is. Any baking you do, any flour, any grains, you're eating grass seed. Second, there's almost, not almost, this is tough. I don't know the stats on this, but there are very, very, very few people who are raising grains in a regenerative way. And like, regenerative in that sense is tough to define anyways, right? What they're doing is probably no-till. So they've got a machine that plants it right into the ground without having to till it. They're probably using less spray, which is nice. They're having to plant, multiple things at once, which it's hard for them and pretty uncommon, because harvesting multiple things into one is not easily done with a machine. And then, they'd have to integrate animals. They'd have to have crop rotations. So in order, to be honest, the way that I see it is it's very hard to do that in a regenerative way. And the reason that is just, it's not a natural occurring phenomenon, right? Animals grazing in herds and flocks is a natural thing, right? We're just trying to mimic that. Whereas, the growing of grains, let's keep it here. The growing of grains is not, right? There's nowhere in nature, that's not what I want. There's nowhere in nature that you're gonna get, none of that works, eh? Whatever. Nowhere in nature you're gonna get, a field full of that one thing. Like, there never would have been a time where you would go and harvest that and make bread, right? It just doesn't exist. Nature is diverse, so there's no mimicking of nature in growing plants. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially on a large scale. There's what did Spencer say? I only eat grass-fed organic Cheez-Its. You can think about this, right? Like, everything is grass-fed. So yes, you are eating grass-fed because everything comes from grass, right? The milk or milk products that go into that Cheez-It comes from a cow. That cow ate grass. And yeah, some of those plants aren't grass, but it's all grass. So yes, it's grass-fed, right? Like, I could say I'm plant-based, right? Because the animals that I eat plants. But I think where I'm going with this is my understanding, in order to do this in the healthiest, most regenerative, sustainable, whatever you want to call it, term way, it's got to be through animals. You have to be eating animals. They are, integrally connected with our evolution, with our moving forward, and taking them out of the system is just going to degrade our soils more and degrade our health more. I've got a little video. Spencer, I know from before you don't like the grass-fed buzz term. I do not. Here, I've got another little video for you guys this morning. So, and if you saw, I did a little live video a couple weeks ago of wrangling some cattle. But so I'll just show a little clip, and maybe I'll give a little context. So I was mentioning with regenerative agriculture, with the animals, in nature, they would clump up into a big group, right? There's tales from, I'm going to get this wrong. What are the, early explorers of North America? Oh, shit. I'm not good at that. But it's not going to come to me. They'll tell stories of, you would basically, a herd of bison would come through and you couldn't see anything for miles but bison, right? Because there were herds of hundreds of thousands of these things. And then they would move on and they would be gone. And then that land would be devastated for however long, and over time it would come back because it had been given the tools to do so. So we do that kind of on a small scale. I've got some fields out here and I break them up into small chunks with electric wire, and the animals move from one section to another, with the goal of not coming back until the land that they were previously on is better than when they got on it the first time. So I'll show you a quick little example of that. The animals were in a section near our forest, and this is them moving, and you'll see a couple of things here. So this is our 3 cows and all of our boys. So all of the sheep over there are males. They're obviously not with the girls because I don't want them breeding yet. And these are our 3 cows that we're going to be eating this winter. That's Lexi on the right there. The one on the left, we call her Whiteface. And then the far right, that's Cece. She's a heifer. She's a little younger. But as you can see, I'm just walking behind them, trying to get them to move to the end of this section that they were in. You'll see the proof of the boys with their giant balls hanging down there. And so what I'm just trying to walk behind them gently so they don't freak out, because if they run through that wire, we're screwed. But if you can see, there's a little white wire up ahead. There was another wire 10 feet in front of that, which they think is still there. But we are trying to basically move through that area into another area that I've set. You can see the bees in the background there, all the beehives on the basically straight through. So they've passed where the wire was, and now they're running into their new section. As you can see, the grass that they're coming from is pretty beat down and pooped on, and where they're going, there's nice long grass there. I mean, it's mature. It's not super vegetative and lush, but it is new, right? They're not coming back to a place where they've already been and it's covered in shit, right? They're going into a fresh spot that's got fresh food. Where is this? It's got fresh food. It doesn't have poop all over it, right? So where they were, and you got to think about this, right? Where the animals are, they poop, right? They don't have a bathroom. They poop where they are. So if you leave them in the same area, which is kind of the conventional system, especially if they're raised in a barn, which you'd be surprised at how many critters that you eat are raised in a barn, they're in their own shit all the time. Think about that, right? Like, imagine you lived in your toilet. So I think I've probably beaten that. If you guys have questions, I would love to do a couple more of those. But the way that I see it, becoming a farmer was basically the evolution, was the next step after being an affiliate owner, because it all kind of becomes one for me, to be honest. This, the human health, the planet health, they're the same thing. And the way I see it is it's the same method for bringing them back. It's getting back to how we were, created, or how we've evolved, whatever you want to call it, the human blueprint. And the way that we move forward productively without ending up being, I don't know if you've seen the movie WALL-E, but I fear that. I fear that's the direction we're going in, with people sitting in fucking hover chairs and drinking their calories through a straw. As crazy as that sounds, I feel like we're moving in that direction, but we don't have to. If we get back to nature, get yourself outside, find somebody who's growing food, grow some food yourself. It's doable. It's possible. Spencer, I'll catch the rest tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Live and own shit. Lots of eye-opening topics I never thought of. Thanks for joining, Spencer. It's, I never thought about a lot of this stuff until I became a farmer, to be honest, until I started digging into where does our food come from? How is it being produced? And do the people who are producing it give a shit about you? Sorry, I feel like I got pretty vulgar this morning. So, on that note, you've got the ability to do whatever with your life, right? You can choose anything. I mean, for example, I'm a fitness guy. I've always been a fitness guy. I've been an indoor guy for most of my life. But when I found out and figured that this is what I wanted to do, I took the steps. Right? I found out what was going to be necessary to move to a farm, to source the right animals, to learn how to do it, and then do it. right? Too many of us have goals and dreams that we talk about that we take no action towards. You will regret that someday. So that's what this section is about. After we're primed, after we've used our minds and our bodies and we're clear and we're good to go, we carve it out. We work towards our dreams. We work towards the impact that we want to have in this life, in this world, so that we're not just going through the motions like everybody else and living in this convenience-driven mindset. You want to come out, dog? So whether it is, I know Megan's not here, but whether it's sourcing farmland, whether it's reading a book on how to, start a garden. Megan, good morning. I was just talking about you. It was a good one. Well, I don't know. You guys can say it was good. The workout was good. Whether the talk was good is subjective, I guess. But know that you can do, I feel like I'm talking to my kids here. You can do anything. Doesn't matter. Even if you're, you think you're too old, you can do anything. Especially if you've got a strong enough why and you take the steps. No worries, Megan. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. You're here. So on that, do it, right? Break it down. Take the steps. If you need guidance, come join us. Join us in the free school group either way, which is where we talk programming. We can talk farming if you want there too. We can talk about anything. But join us there. Community is where it's at. As I'm saying, connection, tribal nature. We need that. And if we're stuck in our houses, we need that even more. So, design your life. Choose your goals. Work towards them. That's loud. Tomorrow we've got our active recovery day. I was planning that out, and I think we're going to get a little bit of back bridge work on one of those minutes as well tomorrow. Just because we're going to do the back bridge every 2 weeks, and I figure if we're going to get a little bit better at it, I might as well try to get in every week. So we've got 4 movements tomorrow for our active recovery, 20 minutes. I think I'm going to need that one today. I think we've gone pretty hard this week, so I hope you guys are in for tomorrow for active recovery day. What else? You got other announcements? I don't know. Yeah, November 11th, we're still on for Job doing 4,000 burpee pull-ups. We had a meeting yesterday or Wednesday at the gym about that, and I think he's got a fundraiser he'd like to do for, for support our troops in Canada here. And it's going to be a hell of an entertaining day. So mark your calendars. Join us in the free school group. You can see it below. Whoa, I'm not good at that. Like, share. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Enjoy your workout later, Megan. Have a great day, Spencer. Jason, where are you at? You haven't said anything in a while. Yaroslav, I'm assuming you're not going to the gym tomorrow since it is, or this morning since, well, I guess you could be going, but not for 6 a.m. Kenneth, you still there? We got a yo this morning and then disappeared. All right, team. You guys are awesome. I hope to see you tomorrow. Maple, you want to come say goodbye? Come here. Come here, you. Wow. Oh, is it doggy? You want to say hi? Look at this. Look at the thing. You're not going to look at the thing, are you? Oh, there. Kenneth is still there. Bye. Oh, God, dog. All right, team. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Dog.